Hey everyone, welcome. Dominic here with Smart Catholics Mastermind and glad to be joined by Edmund Mitchell. Welcome, Ed. How are you?
Hey, great. Doing well.
Good, cool. Hey, can I call you Ed? I forgot to ask.
So my dad has my same name and he goes by Ed. So when you say Ed, I think of my dad. So Edmund
Okay,
would make more
Edmund.
sense, but you can do whatever you want. This is your show, Dominic.
Well, now everybody knows Edmund it is. Okay, so Smart Catholics Mastermind, it's a live series to meet the minds and hearts of Catholic creators. They devote their time and talent to mastering their vocation so that you can live a fuller life faster. Edmund is the co-founder of Real+True, and it's this incredible project. Just in 5 seconds, what is it, Edmund?
It is a online digital apostolate that transforms the catechism into a living voice using digital content and videos, animated videos.
It's like that's exactly like new evangelization stuff. So okay, we'll get to that in a minute. First, I want to start with you. I want to start with your story, like I said before we jumped on. Was there a moment where you began to realize you couldn't stay who you were? You had to be somebody different or start doing something different.
Oh man,
What's
yeah,
that story?
totally. Remind me again how much time I have for this part.
5 minutes, let's say.
Okay, great. Great. So before I really met Jesus, I was raised a cradle Catholic. My parents were really into their faith, or at least I remember that in middle school and high school, my parents being really into their faith. And in high school, I started dating a Protestant and at the same time was really getting into apologetics and is the Catholic faith what I really believe, and was reading a lot of books and was intellectually getting really engaged in owning my faith. And then I went to college. I went to be a biomedical engineer at Georgia Tech because I was the best school I could get into. And I felt like that was the major that would give me the most money and make me seem the smartest. And I was like really the only reason I picked it. It seemed like the most difficult, the most money would make me look the smartest. And I found that I was really drawn to campus ministry and doing ministry and theology and those types of things. And I looked in the back of a book and I love Scott Hahn's books. And I bought like all of them with my textbook money. They're supposed to be like calculus books. And I'm buying like Scott Hahn books. And I looked in the back of the book and it said that he taught at this university, Franciscan University. And I called my sophomore year of college and said, I think I want to be Scott Hahn. And they said, that's not a career path. They said, but like, tell me more. And I said, well, I think I'm interested in theology. I really like teaching the faith and talk and evangelization and this stuff. And they said, well, that sounds like catechetics. Catechetics is, theology is the science of the study of God, and catechetics is how to hand on the faith to other people. And I thought, man, that's really what I really want to do. And so flash forward, I go to Franciscan University and I'm like, man, this is where all the people that write all the apologetics books probably are. Like, these are all the kids that like read apologetics books. And I was so excited. I was like, oh, this is all the nerds like me. And I met a lot of kids that knew a lot about God and had read a lot of books, but I met a lot of people that maybe hadn't read so many books, but they talked about Jesus as if he was in their closet. Like, they talked about Jesus as if they really knew the Father's heart and they knew Jesus. And that really, for me, started this journey of the faith moving from my head to my heart, because I was like, man, I know a lot about Jesus, but I'm not sure I know Jesus. And that really changed my life. That transformation from this intellectual knowledge into finally pursuing and committing myself to pursuing a relationship with the person of Jesus Christ.
Wow. Okay. So today, or within the last couple of months or so, I think last year, you launched Real+True to reparse the catechism and use digital technology, video, that kind of thing. So tell us about that. What is that?
Yeah, so I had a great love of the catechism and kind of fell in love with the catechism by viewing it through the lens of this personal relationship. Like, once I started understanding a personal relationship with Jesus, then I'm going back through everything, all the dogma and doctrine of the church, and I'm going, wow, I'm reading this for the first time. It feels like I'm reading it for the first time. It suddenly has this whole message behind it and this personal relationship that I can see it in context of. So I had a love for the catechism, and Edmundo Reyes and Emily Mentok, who both work at the Archdiocese of Detroit, they had this dream for digital content that was based around something of the Catholic faith, and then decided maybe the catechism. And we all talked together. Edmundo was really inspired by the Bible Project. I don't know if you're familiar with the Bible Project. It's these beautiful explainer videos that are animated that explain the unified story of the Bible. And these,
okay. I think I have seen those.
yeah, it's really great. And so he's like, what if we could do something like that with the catechism? And so all three of us started, making these plans about making a project like that. What if we made a project? And so we pitched it to our Sunday visitor, and they loved the idea and decided to, in their generosity, to fund it and to make all the content we would make free to the world and translate it into multiple languages. So Real and True is, taking passages of the catechism and creating explanation videos. These connection videos are kind of YouTube live action style. And then these proclamation videos, which are more like opening up deeper spiritual theme or broader spiritual themes to try to awaken spiritual curiosity for people, all based on the heart of the catechism.
Gotcha. How, man, I got questions. Okay. So I think the catechism is presented in 4 parts. I think there's 4 key
Yeah.
areas. And so how are you tackling that? And how long is this project going to take you? I mean, it's like that's a big book.
Yeah, probably a long time. So we took the first part. So it's creed, sacraments, morality, and prayer. We took the creed and we decided to divide them up into 12 units. And then each unit has 4 videos. There's the proclamation, explanation, connection, and then a podcast video that kind of unpacks the first 3 videos. So there's 12 units, and our idea initially, well, this is still our idea, is to take 12 months to go through one part of the catechism. And we're hoping that we get the first part of the catechism finished by the time the 30th anniversary of the Catechism of the Catholic Church is, I believe, next year. So we're trying to get that finished by then. And that's how we're going to try to break it out, each part having 12 units. But we'll see what the Lord does.
So the idea is to be dropping out something once a week, and then like at the
Pretty
end of the month
much.
or something is the podcast that's
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah. So we went through this pilot period where we did 3 units, and it was just this mad rush to get it all out there. And it's so much work. We have these really talented, amazing animators. There's just so many people involved in the whole production of these videos. So yeah, the plan is weekly. We're trying to work in enough lead time for everything that we're ahead enough that we can produce things weekly.
So who's the kind of person who'll really resonate with this? Like what kind of Catholic or non-Catholic or sort of Catholic? Like,
yeah,
who are you going for?
Yeah, so we have 2 audiences we were thinking of, and I think this is a good point to the catechism. The catechism says in Pope Saint John Paul II wrote like a foreword, or I forget which the document was, but he said this catechism is first it's for bishops, then for pastors, then for all lay people, then for anyone, meaning anyone that's not even Catholic who is curious about the teaching of the church. And so there's kind of 2 audiences here that we think about. First is we call Michael, or we named him. Michael is kind of like a fallen away Catholic who's interested a little bit, maybe now and then, in some of the teachings of the faith, but he would much more likely click a video that said, what would the world be like without maps, right? He'd click maybe a video like that.
Right.
And then our secondary audience is the more people that are trying to accompany Michael's, people that are committed to their faith and want to dive deeper into the dogmas and doctrines of the faith through this lens of a personal relationship with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So those are 2 audiences. The proclamation video is much more like indirect about the topic. So like I said, we have a video. What would Earth be like without maps is our video that tries to just awaken spiritual curiosity. Like, why is it we desire for maps, or why is it we have this desire for maps and locations and where we're going? And then the second video, the explanation video, dives a little more explicitly into the content. So it's this animated us going back and forth about the passage. So those are our 2 audiences, and we hope that Michael's do eventually get through the rest of the content. The connection video is kind of like more life application. It's a little more fun. And then the podcast is more for our advocates who are wanting to dive deeper into like the behind the scenes of how we made this content, what we're thinking about it, what the strategy is, behind the scenes production stories, stuff like that.
Gotcha. That's cool. Okay, so let me see if I'm getting this. The first kind of video is like, let's look at this from a different point of view. Let's find a new entry angle into this particular, for example, with the creed, right?
Yeah.
And then the next one was, what was that again? The second one?
So it's proclamation, explanation,
okay,
connection, and the podcast. I know it's kind of confusing, but
no, it's cool. I like how it's in a way, it's not all being done in one video, but it's kind of dripped out.
Yeah.
I love that first one. That is
Yeah.
fun.
For the catechetical nerds out there, this comes from what's called the Ecclesial Method that was proposed by Monsignor Francis Kelly, who wrote a book, The Mystery We Proclaim. And my catechetics degree is influenced by Monsignor Kelly in that proposal. And so he proposes, I think it's like 5 or 6 steps, but I tried to like, shorten it down to only 3 steps, but it tries to model the method that God uses to reveal himself to man. So if you think about it in the Annunciation, like something happens, something crazy happens that snaps Mary out of like what she was thinking about, right? She's like reading the Bible or whatever. She's not reading the Bible, but she's like doing something. She's reading the Psalms. I don't know. Uh-huh. And then something awake her, this curiosity, like, what is this thing, Mm-hmm. And then there's the message, an explicit message, a proclamation. And then there's an unpacking. What does this mean? And then what does it mean for me? And then there's Mary's response, the fiat, right? Mm. And so Monsignor Kelly proposes that this is like a method, these steps that God uses. And if we model the method of the master, we do really good catechesis and evangelization. So we're trying to do that. The proclamation video is just more like, what would Earth be like without maps? Try to get someone to go, yeah, why is it that we're so fascinated by maps? What is it we're trying to really like accomplish, or what's this desire to try to get to that deeper desire? So then you're ready, as opposed to just saying like, hey, by the way, God loves you and has a plan for you. And there's a destination that you have. It's like, well, I don't really care. But if you start in the human experience, you start in the spiritual curiosity, it's a lot more effective.
I like this a lot. I think it also hits to something I've been reading about recently, which is human capacity for knowledge. Like you can take stuff in, but then what has to change is your being, how you are as just in your existence. And that you can gain knowledge up the wazoo, but you can still be a very small, crappy human being. But if you allow that knowledge to start changing you, then what starts to happen is, like what you pointed out earlier, you go back and relook at all the knowledge and you're like, this is what's going on. And you both have to kind of keep leveling up at the same time. And I like that you're just not, like shipping Bibles or shipping catechisms, but like making that application, like you said, why does it matter? And then why does it matter to me? Why do you make that distinction between like something mattering in general and then mattering personally?
Are you asking me, or was that a rhetorical?
I'm curious. Like,
because this is how Jesus proclaimed the gospel. Like we're human beings who are comprised of our intellect and our will, and as Dietrich von Hildebrand would say, like, and the heart. But there's this idea of the hand, the head, and the heart. We have our intellect, we have our will, and we understand actions, and then we have our heart. We have like this deep dwelling place where I live and move and have my being, as the Catechism says. And so in order to really have people respond with their hand, head, and heart, we have to use the hand, head, and heart. We can't just use the head, because then otherwise you just have an intellectual assent to an idea and not a person. It's like it's always helpful to go back to God's metaphor for all of this, which is a wedding. And in a marriage, you can't just intellectually assent to loving your spouse, and you can't only do actions of love. It has to be the hand, the head, and the heart all together. And that's really the relationship we're called to of faith.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Edmund, how can people get in touch with you? How can they
show up at my house? About this? No. I would say people would go to Real+True.org. Wait, why am I'm freaking out right now that that's not right. That is right. Yeah. Real+True.org. I just panicked that it was Real+True.org.
That little plus in there, it throws me.
I know. I was afraid that was in the URL for a second, but it's not. Real+True.org. I would go there and check out all the content and give your feedback and comment on the videos, and also share it. And also prayerfully consider, who is someone in your life as you're looking through all the videos. Like think, man, who is someone in my life? Ask the Holy Spirit, like, which one of these videos would be great for someone in my life? Just like one of them, and just share it, with them, and then follow up maybe a few days later. Like, what'd you think about that video? What it stir up in you?
That's awesome. Good for you. In wrapping up then, if you had 1 minute to share your message to the world, and you kind of hinted at it, I think, or maybe even just said it right at the beginning of this discussion. If you had 1 minute to share a message with the world, what would you want to say to people?
Man, right now I'm all up in on the healing. So I would say that Jesus desires healing for you more than you even desire it for yourself. And the whole message of salvation, all of the gospel is summarized in healing, and that Jesus wants to heal you, your hand, your head, and your heart. And he wants that more than you want it yourself. So I think that's like a message of like hope and hoping that people hear that and respond to it.
What I like about what you just said is right now. And I think that is true, as opposed to a message that I'd imagine would endure 50 years. It's like, for me, every 6 months, every year, I'm like attaching to something or growing or, so
Yeah.
in 6 months, maybe you'll have a different one, but that's
for
a
sure.
beautiful one. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Thank
sure.
you. And hey, quick shout out to Crystal, who is an awesome, always watching our shows. I'm going to show a
Hi,
quick comment
Crystal.
from her. She's been great.
She's a nerd. Hi, Crystal.
So yeah, she loves the catechism. So thanks again, Edmund. Thanks again for everyone who watched this live. And then if you're catching the replay, please share this with the one friend that you think would like to see it, and then come and regroup with us in the free Catholic community on SmartCatholics.com. We're free of trolls and ads and toxicity. We're faithful to the Holy Father, Pope Francis, and the Church, and we're committed to a culture of kindness and learning. Does that sound like you? Well, then come and join us. Thanks again. God bless everyone.
Take care.